What's up, everybody? Just wanted to do a quick recap of UFC 290. Started off the night really well. I went 6-2 on the prelims, and I went 2-3 on the main card. So it was a rough one, but I did hit some decent underdogs. Not as many, obviously, as I would like to have, and I picked a few wrong underdogs. But you know, what are you gonna do, man? Two title fights. Title fights are weird. I always think they're hard to bet on. But yeah, but overall, I thought the card was absolutely amazing. I thought the prelims were good. The early prelims got it off to an exciting start, and then I thought the regular prelims were pretty fun, and then the main card it did not stop rolling. Like, the least interesting fight on the card was the main event, and it was still a good fight, and that was my most anticipated fight of the summer. So yeah, just go through real quick. First fight of the night, I lost. Nothing new. At 205, Kamala Kirk and Esteban Ribovic. Kamala Kirk, slight underdog, plus 120. I just picked him. Really good grappling in the first round. I mean, complete domination in the first round. And then the second and the third round, Ribovic, I knew he had power. He started landing some big shots. And Kamala started to gas out over the course of the second and third round, and Ribovic got it done. Tough one though. I was feeling really confident after that first round, but he just couldn't keep it together. But what are you gonna do? Second fight of the night at Flyweight, Shannon Ross and Jesus Aguilar. I got back on track. Aguilar didn't expect a knockout in 17 seconds, but it's a 17-second knockout. So just kind of what happens sometimes. And then Cameron Simon and Terrence Mitchell at bantamweight. Cameron Simon got it done. He was a minus 600 price tag though, but I couldn't decide between submission or knockout, so I just kind of stayed away from this one. But he got the knockout. He took the back, went for the rear naked choke a couple times, and then ended up getting the knockout. So it was kind of a 50-50 on that one. Then the main event of the early prelims, 205 light heavyweight, Vitor Petrino, Marcin Prachnio. I went with Petrino. I was a little nervous because he was minus 225, but I knew Petrino had the bigger power, and I knew he has some good scramble ability, and he was decent on the ground. He could take people's backs against Antoine Turkalj, but I didn't expect a submission. I didn't expect him to be so heavy on the wrestling aspect of it, but after he got going in the first round, he started getting those takedowns. They were just coming so easily to him, and once he got on top, he was taking his time. He was passing the half guard, looking to get mount at times. He just looked really good. And, he didn't blow his cardio out in the first round. That's another thing. You look at him, he's pretty muscle bound. You think that he'll just get tired after the first round. Not the case. He did a good job conserving his energy. I thought they both landed some big shots in the first round, and then his wrestling is what helped him take over in the later stages of the fight. So very good victory from him. I'm pretty proud about that one. And then the one that I feel I'm happy about was the first fight on the prelims, 205 pounds again. Jimmy Crute and Alonzo Menifield, number 2. I picked Alonzo Menifield the first time. He was an underdog again, plus 120, and I thought he should have won the last fight. So I was a little hesitant on this fight just because maybe Jimmy Crute was coming off an injury that last fight, and maybe he's gotten some time to heal, and maybe he just kind of out-grapples Menifield. Not the case. Not as fun of a fight as the last fight. It was kind of a clinch fest, to be honest. Alonzo got him up against the fence a lot. They both landed a couple shots. Alonzo landed some nice knees, landed some decent power shots in the clinch. And then in the second round, more scrambles, and Alonzo started landing some bigger shots in the clinch again. And there's just the scramble ability from both of them. And Alonzo, I think he got a little smarter in the scrambling, and he was able to catch him in that guillotine. I didn't see that one coming, but he just ran it down. Didn't see Alonzo Menifield getting a submission win and beating Jimmy Crute in a grappling situation, but he got it done. And yeah, he looks like a smarter fighter. He's got Pat Barry in the corner, and that was a big win for him because Crute was ranked number 14, so Menifield should be getting a ranking now. And 205, as it's been a while since we've heard anything about the title talks in that fight. I know he's still a ways from there, but he's number 14 now. Khalil Roundtree, he's supposed to fight Dawkins, but can you just imagine Alonzo Menifield and Khalil Roundtree going at it? I mean, so sign me up for that one. And then the next fight at women's strawweight, 115 pounds, Yasmin Uruguay taking on Denise Gomez. Two unproven fighters at strawweight, two young fighters. I'm not really good at picking women's fights, but what I do know is Yasmin Uruguay was minus 400, and I watched the tape on both of them, and they both got finishes their last fight. But Yasmin Uruguay, she got dropped early on her last fight, and she's minus 400. And Denise Gomez, she's got power, and she's plus 300. So I went with Denise Gomez. Didn't expect this result. Just a knockout instantly. Caught her with the Denise Gomez, catches her with a big shot, and then Yasmin's trying to get on that single, and Denise Gomez gets her up against the fence and just unloads on her and gets it done. So, yeah, I was pretty happy about that one. I didn't bet a ton of money on it because, you know, I would have felt stupid if I would have lost on lower level women's MMA, but pretty nice victory. On the co-main event of the prelims, 125 pounds men's flyweight. Another tough one. I went with Tatsuro taking on newcomer Edgar Chairez, and Tatsuro was like a minus 900 favorite, and he fluctuated a little bit. I think he was like a minus 1,000 earlier on, and I'm just not good at props, and that's something I'm trying to get better at, or I don't know, but I stayed away from it on this fight, and Tyra by knockout was plus 500, and submission was like minus 220, and I didn't know what to go with, so I picked the fight to go under 1.5, and I thought that's what would happen, but it didn't. But I still picked Tyra to win. But yeah, minus 1,000, that's a little much for me. It was a pretty good fight, though. I think Tyra got tested appropriately. It just sucks because Chairez isn't like some tough, grizzled veteran. So, I don't know. But he got it done. Pretty good fight, though. First round, Tyra was landing some leg kicks, but then Chairez drops him with a leg kick and then a straight right, which is surprising. Like, Tyra was landing a lot of leg kicks, and Chairez drops him with like the first leg kick, so that was pretty worrisome. But then he jumps on that guillotine, and it's kind of tight, but then Tyra's able to get half guard. And I know watching his tape back, he gets caught in guillotines, but he stays calm, and he was kind of laying there for a flat. Maybe it was just me, but it looked like he was unconscious, but it was probably just me. But then he was able to get half guard, get the crucifix. For TD in the first round, good end for him. Then in the second round, Tyra got the double, and he slips out of the guillotine. He shoots the double like right away this time, and Chairez just pulls that guillotine. He like bails out on the guillotine. It wasn't a smart move. And then Tyra just dominates. He gets half guard and then transition to full mount, crucifix. Tries to go for the Kimura, then just lands some ground and pound. Then he pulls a triangle at the end, tries to finish it. And then the third round, so things got a little hairy for me. Well, for Tyra, but I was kind of worried. In the third round, Chairez was landing some counters and some hooks, and he was getting beat up on. Tyra was getting touched on the feet a little bit, but Tyra's a well-rounded fighter. He was able to get that double leg again. And then, didn't do a ton of work. And I think he realized he wasn't going to get Chairez out of there. And he had him up against the fence a lot of the times. And then Chairez bails on that. Chairez sells out for that guillotine again. And 10 seconds left to go. And he has the thing locked up. And then he actually mounts Tyra. And just kind of waiting for the time to go out. So, just a little bit of excitement there at the end of the fight that didn't need it. But other than that, I thought Tyra won 2 and 3 easily. First round's up for debate. But yeah, it didn't look like a minus 900, but he got the job done, and it was a fun fight. Now, I was feeling very confident up until this point, and then the main event of the prelims, a welterweight, 170 pounds, Robbie Lawler. It's his retirement fight, taking on Nico Price. Nico Price hits pretty hard. Robbie Lawler's taking a lot of damage. You watch his last fight against Brian Barberena. There's just a certain point in the fight where he just put his guard down and just kept eating punches and just couldn't get out of the way, basically. And also, who wins their retirement fight? When somebody announces, I'm retiring after this fight, they don't win. It just doesn't happen. Unless you're Robbie Lawler, because Robbie Lawler is immortal, I guess. There is not much of a fight here. First round, they just kind of get into the phone booth and scrap, and then Robbie's lands some hooks, lands a nasty hook, then an uppercut inside the clinch, and just gets a knockout. And lands a hook on the way down. And Nico Price was out cold, out stiff, didn't move. So yeah, that sucked, dude. And Nico Price was like minus 220. I didn't like that price tag. But I factored in that it's Robbie Lawler's retirement fight. He can't win. He's a good fighter. It'll be a tough, fun fight. But Nico Price is good enough to beat Robbie Lawler at his retirement fight, and he didn't. So that proves me wrong. And good for Robbie Lawler. It was an awesome moment. And that's what happens whenever you want to fight in a phone booth with Robbie Lawler. You're probably going to lose. So, but on to the main event, the pay-per-view. Every single fight was absolutely amazing. And the prelim, that was just a surge of excitement to get us going into the pay-per-view. First fight, it was Bo Nickel taking on newcomer Val Woodburn. Val Woodburn took the fight in like 2-3 days notice, so very interesting. And the props on this fight were just insane. Bo Nickel was minus, what was he? He ended up being minus 2,400 at the time of the fight. I think he might have came down a little bit, but by the time I looked at it on DraftKings, minus 2,400. Knockout or submission, I didn't know. I didn't want to pick either one. You could go inside the distance, but it's not going to be much better than... It's still going to be a ton of money coming down from 2,400. I want the whole fight to go over 1.5 for plus 320. I thought that was a decent bet, but it wasn't. You know, I thought Val Woodburn, you know, Bo Nickel was a very analytical guy. Maybe he would kind of take his time, gets a new opponent for him as well. And, you know, Val Woodburn should have a puncher's chance. And I knew Val Woodburn was okay in the clinch, so I don't know. But it didn't really matter because Bo Nickel got a knockout within 20 seconds. Bo he threw a couple feints in there. He got Val Woodburn to throw a couple shots and missed them. And then Bo just steps in, lands a couple big hooks, and knocks him out. He'll step in, land a big hook, then Woodburn will kind of wobble. Then he steps in again and just cracks him. And stays at distance. Does not get touched at all. He's in with the hook, slips out. Val Woodburn misses him completely. So yeah, very exciting moment. It was supposed to be Tresean Gore, but that just adds to the hype of Bo Nickel. What does this victory mean? Not a ton, for being honest, but it gets people excited. And next, I think I just want to see Tresean Gore. I think I want to see that fight. I think it's an appropriate step up. Val Woodburn has no fights in UFC. And Tresean's coming off a win. So, Tresean's got decent wrestling abilities. So, I like to see that fight. But, yeah, very good first 2 fights for him. Has less than a round of cage time. So, very good for him. Now, second fight of the night. That's where things, you know, it just wasn't my night this night. Lightweight, 155 pounds, Jalen Tarantula Turner taking on Dan Hooker. I was very excited for this fight. This was a ranked matchup. Each guy was basically battling to get to the number 10 spot. And Jalen Turner was minus 285, Dan Hooker plus 240. And I knew Dan Hooker had a decent shot, and this line was a little off to me. But I just really liked Jalen Turner. I thought he was going to win. His last fight against Gamrot impressed me. And I thought that on the feet, he would hurt Dan more. And I wasn't sure how good Dan's chin was coming off the Arnold. I know it was a while ago, but the Arnold Allen knockout, Michael Chandler knockout, that war with Dustin Poirier. There's a lot of talk about, was he the same fighter? And I thought Jalen would crack him. Well, I was dead wrong, because this fight basically came down to Dan Hooker's chin, because Jalen Turner was landing by far the biggest shots of the fight. Massive head kick in there. Dan Hooker did not fall down not one time. And then Jalen Turner just got discouraged and he got tired, and Dan Hooker just took over. And that veteran savviness came out and he got the win. But it was an amazing fight. If it wasn't for the co-main event, I'd say this is fight of the night easily, but that co-main event was something else. But yeah, first round, Jalen, couple straight blitzes, and Hooker's throwing those teeps in there like he does. Knew that from the film. But then Jalen kind of walks through a head kick. He lands a right cross, then Hooker started landing some counter hooks. But then Jalen started to land some hooks, and they kind of got into the phone booth a little bit, threw at each other in the pocket, and then Jalen was landing 1-2 in the firefight. First round was pretty close. Well, close-ish. I would give it to Jalen Turner. Then in the second round, Jalen, he was landing some shots at length, and then he rocks them with a couple of head kicks and some crosses, and he's able to stuff all the clinch attempts from them. He did a good job of keeping them off of them. And then Hooker lands a left hook and a right cross, and they both kind of land in the flurry. Then Hooker landed a couple hooks, and then Jalen got into the tie clinch, threw a couple knees, and he just kind of fell down, and he was pretty tired. But then that second round, that's when that left head kick from range just caught Dan Hooker, and his head moved all the way over to the side, and he didn't fall down. And it was pretty, after that, you kind of think, oh man, maybe can Jalen keep up this pace? But still up to this point, like Jalen was walking Hooker down the whole time, but Hooker was just sneaky with his shots, man. So yeah, but he was a little tired. And then that second round, and then Hooker got on his back, kind of went for a rear naked choke with like 10 seconds left, landed a couple punches. That's the closest round. Honestly, you could give it to either guy. I'd have to go back and rewatch it again, but I mean, it was very close. So came down to the third round, in my opinion. Third round, Jalen's pressing with some straight shots. He landed some crosses. Then Hooker was rushing him with a flurry of hooks, and he clips him. But then Jalen was landing some straight shots. Then Hooker dropped him with the short left in the exchange when he was coming towards him. And Hooker gets on top, lands a ton of ground and pound. But Jalen was able to keep his composure. He kept scrambling. He kept grabbing him. He took some shots on the ground. Both these guys' chins were insane. And then he was actually able to get up and he was on the feet for about 15, 20 seconds. Threw some stuff at him, but didn't really hit him with anything big, not enough to win the round. And yeah, it was a split decision win. I can't be mad at it. Like I said, it all came down to that second round, and that second round was pretty close. They both beat the shit out of each other, but Dan Hooker, he won the end of the second round, and then he won the third round convincingly. So what do you want to do? But, you know, a lot of people thought Dan Hooker was done. I didn't think he was, like, done, but I thought he was done, like, top 10-wise. But, no, Dan Hooker is back, and it was a very good performance, a very inspired performance. Showed a lot of heart, a lot of toughness. Both guys did. It's not the performance Jalen Turner was looking for, but it proved that he has heart and that if the going gets tough, he's tough as hell. So, and Dan Hooker's a savvy veteran. He's been there with a lot of experienced guys. So, and Jalen, it was a split decision. So, you know, it's a loss, but I think he learned a lot. I think he learned a lot from it. I don't know. Next, I think Dan Hooker, if he wants to keep climbing the ranks, you should do Dan Hooker and Fiziev. They could do that, unless he wants to fight Mateusz Gamrot, but I don't know how fun that fight's going to be, because Dan Hooker's number 10 right now. And maybe Fiziev needs like a bounce back fight, possibly. So, I don't know. But I don't think he's going to get anybody in the top 5. You could do Dan, and RD isn't in there. You could do Sarukian maybe, but I don't think Sarukian's going to want to fight below anymore. And then I think you could do that one. And then Jalen Turner versus Matt Frivola. That's a really fun fight, and that's like the best shot of getting Jalen Turner back on track if you want to. But also, it's a winnable fight for Matt Frivola, and you might have a star in Matt Frivola. Or you could do Renato Moicano and Jalen Turner. That's just an all-classic banger. I don't know if they're going to do Moicano and Saruki again like they were planning on. But, yeah. Or you could do Grant Dawson and Jalen Turner. But I don't know if that's the best fight for Jalen Turner. I don't know if you want to fight those guys right now. But you got a couple options. But I think Jalen Turner and Matt Frivola, that's a fun move. And Dan Hooker and Fiziev. I mean, that'd be a striker's delight. On to the feature fight of the main card, 185 pounds men's middleweight. Robert the Reaper Whittaker took on Dricus du Plessis, and this was one of my proudest moments. I took Dricus du Plessis ever since this fight got announced, especially once I saw the line. I thought he had a chance, and I couldn't really explain it to people, but he was plus 280, and then there's this whole storyline with whoever wins is fighting Izzy. Is Izzy going to fight Rob for the third time? Dricus and Izzy have this feud going on. And it just made sense for Dricus to surprise everybody and knock out Robert Whittaker. And he can finish fights. And I knew Robert was the more technical fighter. Was a cleaner striker. But Dricus is a wild boy. And Dricus caught him, man. It was a great fight. First round, Rob starts jabbing at range. Dricus eats him, but then Dricus tries to go for the blitz. But then Rob hits a double. But then Dricus has a guillotine. He's able to use that. He's using that to get up back to his feet. And then Rob started jabbing Dricus from range. But then Dricus lands a front kick and a 1-2. And then he goes for a headlock, steps through, and gets him down to the ground. And then drops some pretty big elbows on Robert to end the first round. And even at the end of the first round, Robert just looked like a little slow. Like, he just looked like he was surprised and he wasn't ready for all the pressure Dricus was bringing. And he just looked a little off, to be honest. Then the second round, Rob gets back to his jabs, but Dricus is slowly taking ground. And it just seemed like Robert couldn't keep him off of him. Like, he didn't hit him with anything hard enough to stop Dricus from walking him down like that. But then Rob started throwing his 1-2 head kick, his patented move. But then Dricus rocks him with the step-in cross from range. and then he hurts him. He hurts him bad, and then he just rushes him, and then Whitaker starts showing up on the fence. And then Dricus just unloads on him, rips the body a couple times. Whitaker's running away from him, and he just kept hitting him, and just got on top, just got on him, beat the shit out of him, man. It was tough. That's what I mean. I don't think Dricus like hit that hard. Like I didn't think he had show-stopping power like that. But I don't know, man. Kind of sucks for Rob because he is. I always thought he was like the second most skilled fighter in that division, but stuff happens, man. And middleweight's been needing new life anyway. And people were talking about maybe giving Sean Strickland a title shot, but now Dricus is definitely going to get the title shot. And there's a backstory there. There's a feud there, and I'm excited for that one. And I think Dricus has a shot of knocking out Izzy. If you can knock out Robert Whitaker, you might be able to knock out Izzy, you know? Who knows? So I'm excited for that one. And then Whitaker, you know, just in a tough situation. I assume he's going to want to get back on the horse. There's still fun fights for him. And who's to say he never gets a title shot again? He's only 32. He's been around for a while, but, you know, you just got to keep winning fights. Maybe they do Strickland and Whitaker. You know, that's a fun fight. I really wish they would have done him and Paulo Costa, but Costa's fighting Alaskarov for whatever reason. But, you know, either Strickland or Costa for Whitaker, because he's beating a lot of other guys in that division. So, he'll be all right. Co-main event of the evening, best fight on the card by far. But every fight was good, but this one was just another level. 125 pounds, men's flyweight for the title, Brandon Moreno and Alejandro the Cannibal Pantoja. Man, this was a tough one for me. I really had, like, I didn't feel confident either way. And, you know, Brandon Moreno minus 205. I just went with him. I thought he'd be able to get it done. I knew Alejandro had the grappling advantage, but I thought Moreno would be able to defend it, and he did, but Pantoja took the back longer than I thought he would. Like, Brandon wasn't able to, like, defend a lot of this stuff. He was able to get up in an okay amount of time, but Pantoja just, he had it. He was losing on the feet at some points, and he would just win the rest of the rounds or make them extremely close just by taking the back and going for submission attempts. But they beat the shit out of each other as well. This is a great fight. First round, Moreno's able to reverse the clinch, lands a jab, lands a couple 1-2s at reins. But then Pantoja drops him with the counter left hook, lead left hook. Then he lands some ground and pound, but Moreno's tough as hell. He's able to get back up. But then Moreno starts landing some jabs, stuff the shots. But then Pantoja kind of rushes him, throws some leading hooks, hurts him a little bit. But then in the second round, Moreno starts landing some jabs, and he backs out of the range of the hook, starts ripping the body, which is really nice. And he'd go left hook to the body, left hook to the head. It was really good combos working for him. Go to the body and then overhand, and then he was able to take the back. But then Moreno landed a left hook to the body, and then the head followed it up with some jabs, landed a couple lead hooks, but then Pantoja landed a couple counter hooks, then he'd go into the clinch and kind of slow Moreno down there. And then in the third round, Pantoja rushed with some hooks. He was able to take the back with go for the rear naked choke attempt, but Moreno is eventually able to explode into him, and he's able to get back up to his feet, land some jabs and some head kicks. But then Pantoja would rush at him with those hooks again and just kind of throw wild. And then he'd be like throwing those hooks to either get into the clinch or go for a takedown attempt. Then he was able to get the clinch into the trip takedown. But then Moreno was able to like trap his arm, kind of go for like an omoplata type of situation. And then he's able to get on top of there. But then Pantoja, it looked like he landed a couple big up kicks. It was kind of hard to tell from the angle, like how much they did hurt him. And then Moreno was trying to posture up and throw down some punches, but it looked like Pantoja caught him a little bit. And then Pantoja, like, and then in the third round, just going crazy with the elbows. Then in the fourth round, Moreno went to the body, then the head again, and then they both kind of trade hooks in the pocket. And then Pantoja was able to get around he was able to duck under, get around the back down, drag him down on the ground. But then Moreno was able to work his way back up. But then Pantoja gets him down again, and it was just like not demoralizing, but you know, Moreno did a lot of work to get up, and then Pantoja was able, like, Pantoja, DC said it in a press fight, Pantoja is sticky. Like, it's hard to get off your back, and Moreno was doing a ton of work, but you know, Moreno always trying to get back to his feet. But then Pantoja was able to take the back, and then Moreno's kind of extended on a single leg. But then Pantoja's able to get around the back, along the cage. and he's able to drag him down. Goes for the arm triangle attempt, but then Moreno is able to reverse the position, just kind of sweep him, and then get back up on the feet. Landed a couple nasty step-in elbows on the feet. And then 5th round, Moreno landed some lead left hooks, and then he was ripping the body again, going back to that combination. And then Pantoja landed some counter hooks in the pocket, and then Moreno starts getting some distance, starts popping his jabs out, and like these jabs were hard. Like he was kind of snapping Pantoja's head back. But then second half of the round, Pantoja's able to get the double, get on the backpack for the remainder of the round. And didn't do a ton of damage, but I mean, he had his back, and that's like considered a dominant position. So I don't know. Watching it live, I watched it at the casino with a bunch of people. I was watching the whole fight, but it was just, I had no idea who won the rounds, to be honest. I thought it was really close. I thought Moreno did a lot of good damage, but then, like I said, Pantoja would take the back for large portions of the round, and then he ended the round with that. And it's not really supposed to matter, but I think it does. Like, if somebody wins the first half and then they just have the back for the second half of the round, you know, and it's a close round, who the judge is going to give it to. But I don't really have a problem with that decision. That's another one like Hooker and Turner. Can't really complain about that one. I thought it was an amazing fight. I think they're both neck and neck. Like, they fight 10, well, technically Pantoja beat him 3 times, but if they fought 10 times now from today, who knows? Who knows what that record is? I would be completely fine seeing a rematch, but I get it. You want to keep the division moving, and they just had 4 fights in a row with Moreno and Figueiredo. So, and you do got some contenders. Royval was the backup for this fight, and I think Dana White said that he's next. He's next in line. That's kind of what happens whenever you have a backup fighter. But then Amir Albazi just won, and they're going to Abu Dhabi in October. So I heard they want to do Pantoja and Albazi for Abu Dhabi. So who knows? But if they want to do an immediate rematch, maybe. I don't think they should. I would definitely watch it. I think it'd be a great fight. I think it's worthy of one. I just don't think Moreno, he doesn't have any defenses. So I think they should have somebody new, get some new blood in there. I think they could do either Albazi and Pantoja or Royval and Pantoja, and then Albazi or Royval can fight Moreno. Either one of those fights. Those are 2 good fights there. However you want to split them up. But yeah, I mean, Moreno's right there. He's still got a lot of time. And it was just an amazing fight. And like, Flyweight is one of my favorite weight. Actually, it's like my favorite weight class to watch because they're just so fast and they just do things that the bigger guys can't do. And they beat the hell out of each other. So finally, on to the main event, 145 pounds, men's featherweight, Alexander the Great Volkanovski taking on Yair El Pantera Rodriguez. And this was my most anticipated matchup of the whole summer. And unfortunately, it was the worst fight on the card. It wasn't a bad fight. It was a good fight. But compared to that card, it's just like, it wasn't... I thought this fight was going to be how Moreno and Pantoja ended up being. I thought it was going to be back and forth war, but it really wasn't, except for the 3rd round. It wasn't even close. I went with Yair Rodriguez plus 290. I just had a feeling, man, and that's what I mean. I picked the wrong underdog. I should have picked Pantoja because, you know, that sounds like an even closer fight. Like, Moreno doesn't have this long established dominance, and Pantoja is better in the grappling department. So Volkanovski better in the grappling and wrestling department, and you know, Pantoja, he's a dangerous striker. But you know, I don't know. I thought of too many outside factors. I didn't like that Volk was coming down from 55 to 45. I didn't like that he kept talking about he wants to fight Islam again immediately. And he's 35, and I just didn't know, you know. And I just thought Yair plus 290. I thought it was a little disrespectful to Yair, but it wasn't. Not at all. That was a perfectly aligned fight. But, yeah. It was a fun fight while it lasted. First round, Volk just catches a kick pretty early on. They're kind of at range. They're kind of like feeling each other out for a little bit. And he gets the double, lands some heavy ground and pound like he does. Then Yair tries to Granby. And then Volk is able to go for that arm triangle. And yeah, you kind of learned early on that, you know, Volk was going to be able to keep Yair down for long periods of time if he needed to. Then the second round, Yair blitzes with some 1-2s and some head kicks, land a couple body kicks. And then they both kind of rushed at each other with some hooks, but then Volk is able to get the double, land some more heavy ground and pound, takes the back for a period of time, and just slow and steady with the ground and pound, you know. And then third round, Yair went for a hook and landed a head kick and then a 1-2. And he landed another head kick. And then he landed a hook to the body and then some counter hooks. And then Yair was able to stuff a couple of these takedowns at this point. But they weren't like the best setup takedowns from Volk. And Yair was looking good. Like, I was actually getting excited. Like, he was starting to find his range. He was starting to land a little bit. He wasn't landing flush with too much. But I thought he was starting to find his groove. It's a third round. Okay, here we go. But, yeah. And then Yair rushed him for the hooks, landed a leg kick. And then he kind of rocks him a little bit. Knocks him off balance. Then Volk rocks him with the counter hook. Then he hits the double off the fence, picks him up, slams him. And just a ridiculous flurry of ground and pound, and he gets a TKO. And Yair just wasn't moving at all. The ref gave him like a lot of time to move. I thought maybe he was going to, but he didn't. He just didn't move. The ref gave him longer than he really needed, in my opinion. And yeah, it was just weird. Kind of weird fight, man. It was like more dominant than I thought it was. Aside, Yair was having some success on the feet, and if he could have kept that at range like that, maybe he could have won the third round. But Volk just got him with the big shot, getting a little too excited, And that wild style works for some people, worked against Josh Emmett. It was an extremely close fight with Max Holloway, but Volk does have that show-stopping power, I guess. He's not like the most powerful puncher, but he seems like over time he's developed it, and he dropped Islam in the 5th round of that fight. So maybe he's working on his power. Maybe his hands are finally starting to come together a little bit in these championship fights, and he got it done. So amazing performance from Volkanovski. There's a talk, is he the featherweight GOAT? I wouldn't say so yet, but he's in the conversation. But I think probably needs a couple more defenses. And I think it's hard to compare eras with him and Jose Aldo. What Jose Aldo did is unforgettable. So we'll see. But yeah, I think I'm excited to see his next fight. I'm excited to see what he does. If he wants to fight Islam again, I'm fine with that. I just want to see this guy fight again, But, they have a clear contender in Ilia Topuria. And if he wants to be the greatest featherweight of all time, I think he should rack up the defenses. So I don't see a reason why they don't just line that up and do it as soon as possible, like maybe December, I think they could do that. And then Yair, he could fight. I think Yair and Arnold Allen is a good one. I think that'd be great. And then you could have, well, maybe not, because if Yair wins there, he's not going to fight for the title again. You could do, Yair maybe a return fight for Calvin Kattar. That'd be a fun one. But yeah, Yair's got some time. Yeah, there's still fun fights for him. And, yeah, featherweight's kind of starting to move along. They still got the Max Holloway problem, where Max Holloway's probably going to beat everybody that he fights, but they found a way to get around that, and they have a whole new contender in Topuria. So for now, I think that's good enough. But overall, 290, amazing card. Best card I've seen in a very long time. Didn't do as well as I wanted to. I was doing very well, pretty well. I was happy with myself, and then it just fell apart on the main card. And I just got to. It's the same problem I always have. Like, looking back on it, Dan Hooker at plus 200 or whatever, plus 220, like, I should have took that one. And I'm going to take chances on those ones, but I'm not going to take chances on Robbie Lawler plus 200. I'm going to pay out for Jalen Turner and Nico Price. Why not pay plus 200 for Robbie Lawler, who has show-stopping power? So, and then I know even less. I'm less confident about Pantoja Moreno, so why not take the underdog on Pantoja? But that's how it is. We evolve and we get better and just keep doing research, and hopefully it'll happen. But thanks, guys. Thanks for riding with me. Appreciate it. This week, you got Holly Holm and Mayra Buena Silva. Admittedly, not the most exciting fight, but women's bantamweight is kind of interesting right now. There's some opportunities for some fun stuff to happen, so I'll give it a chance. Thanks, everyone.